Your drive to work tomorrow might be a little slushy. We're tracking snow and chilly temperatures for the weekend.
Developing now, one student is dead and 5 people are hurt in a shooting at a high school in Iowa. But we're learning about the victims and the suspect.
3 serious crashes in 3 weeks on a busy road in Commerce City. Police are trying to make things safer for cyclists and drivers. A hit and run on the slopes at Keystone. Our legal expert says it could lead to felony charges for the skier deemed responsible.
Not just for show. They're a way of life. They serve more than one purpose.
Cowboy fashion is all over Denver as the stock show begins. We're talking to the real cowboys. 9 News at 4 starts now.
4 o'clock on your Thursday, there's a look at downtown, and you can see the gray skies. It has looked and felt very January, very stock show-like. And now we're waiting on the possibility of some real snow coming for the first time this year. Could see some of that snow overnight, which would interfere with your drive to work tomorrow.
So let's take a look out west. Ski resorts in the mountains really would like some snow. They would like a lot of it. Probably not going to get it from this storm. Lauren is tracking the timing of this storm, and it doesn't sound like it's going the right way, but we're going to feel it.
Yeah, some areas will benefit from this. Denver, not on that list. Same goes for most of the high country west of Denver. The heavier snow is expected to fall further south and across the plains. That's where we're going to see this system drop some moisture. Right now, though, we're at 30 degrees at DIA. We're still very dry. A little bit of cloud cover has moved in. Winds coming in from the north at around 6 miles per hour, making it feel closer to 24 degrees out there. So tonight in Denver, the bigger story is going to be the chilly temperatures instead of snow, because all of that snow is still looking to fall further south. You can see the center of this system pushing its way through New Mexico, and that's really just dropping the heaviest snow, mostly south of the I-70 corridor. We saw some across the southwestern corner of the state earlier. Now it's in the southern portions of the Front Range and into the southern portions of the eastern plains. That's where we're going to see the highest snow totals. So that's where we have our winter weather advisories. Now to the southwest, those advisories are going to expire in about an hour, but we're going to keep these ones to the south of the Front Range and eastern plains and then central portions of the plains. Those will be in effect until tomorrow morning. So I'll have more details on all of this snow and the lack of snow we're going to see in Denver just ahead in my full 7-day forecast.
Thanks, Lauren. As we expect the cold and the snow overnight, Denver is opening an overnight shelter at 2 hotels off Quebec and I-70. The New Directions Hotel and the former Doubletree Hotel. They will open Friday through the weekend until Monday morning. Buses will also be available to transfer people at the St. Francis Center at 23rd and Curtis.
One of the suspects who ran the Penrose Funeral Home, where investigators found hundreds of bodies in southern Colorado, we're back in court today. The judge reducing the bond. The judge lowering that bond from $2 million down to $100,000 for John Halford. He's the man facing 190 counts for abuse of a corpse, forgery, theft, and money laundering. Halford and his wife, Carrie, owned the Return to Nature Funeral Home in Penrose. Families believed that their loved ones had been cremated, but investigators found the remains of nearly 200 people this fall. Coming up at 5, we'll be hearing from victims of the funeral home who called this lowering of the bond a slap in the face.
The Commerce City Police Department is tracking some unfortunate and at times tragic crashes. 6 auto pedestrian crashes that killed or seriously hurt someone in 2023.
Yeah, and 3 of them happening just in the last 3 weeks. Janelle Finch is live on Highway 2 in Commerce City. That's where someone was hit and killed on his bike just last night, Janelle.
It's a story Commerce City Police say it's been telling over and over. This has at least been the department's feeling over the last 3 weeks, where there were 3 serious crashes between cars and pedestrians. The Commerce City Police Department is working on ways to keep drivers and bikers safe on all roads and highways. This could include better lighting along Highway 2. This is where 2 auto pedestrian collisions happened within just 6 days of each other. One left a cyclist with critical injuries at 72nd and Highway 2, and the crash last night at 64th and Highway 2 killed the cyclist. Police say the cyclist was crossing a busy road at a spot where there was no crosswalk. Joanna Smalls with Commerce City Police says bikers and drivers share responsibility to follow road instructions and be seen.
A lot of these cases, Highway 2 is a very, very busy road. And again, people are traveling at fast speeds. If you have to cross there as a pedestrian or a bicyclist for your own safety, We want you to go to an intersection that has a crosswalk. We understand you have to get where you're going, and that sometimes that involves crossing a busy road, but you need to make yourself as visible as possible when you're doing that. We want drivers to be able to see you.
The investigation into what caused the collision here at 64th and Highway 2 is still under investigation, but police do not believe the driver was speeding.
Yeah, it's always hard, Janelle, with these cases, trying to sort out exactly what did happen, but we certainly know that any loss of life, any type of accident like these are horrible situations that pedestrians and cyclists often find themselves in, going up against a car.
Right, absolutely. And it's really hard here on Highway 2 where the police department has seen people often do speed. So it is definitely really tough to be a pedestrian or a bicyclist in the face of that.
All right, Janelle Finch reporting. Thanks. A woman in Aurora now safe, this after being held hostage for days, and the man who police say forced her into a car is now in custody. Aurora police say 47-year-old Medell Harper is now facing charges of kidnapping and second-degree assault. It was on Friday night at around 10:30 that witnesses told police they saw a man armed with a gun assault a woman and force her into a car off of East 42nd Avenue. Aurora police said at around 6:30 last night that woman was found safe. We still don't know much other than that. We're working to learn more details as to where and how she was found.
Summit County deputies are looking for a skier who crashed into a father and a daughter at Keystone Resort. The dad has really serious injuries. The sheriff's office says this happened Tuesday afternoon at the bottom of Bergman Bowl. Deputies say as the father and his daughter were exiting the run, a man on a ski bike hit both of them and took off. The daughter was okay. The father, who's in his 70s, is still in the hospital in critical condition. The Colorado Ski Safety Act states that skiers involved in a collision must stay, give their name and their address to Ski Patrol. 9 News legal analyst Scott Robinson says skiers higher up in the mountain are the ones responsible.
There are real penalties if you injure another person because you're skiing recklessly. The law requires everyone on the ski slope to keep a proper lookout and to stay in control. But the primary duty to avoid collisions is always the uphill skier who's coming down, for good reason. They can see who's ahead of them, whereas folks down the hill don't have eyes in the back of their head.
Leaving the scene of a ski collision can be a felony if it causes serious bodily injury. Skiers could face 5 to 16 years in prison. Summit County deputies are asking any witnesses to this crash to call dispatch at 970-668-8600. Marshall Fire survivors now have an easier tool to apply for grants and loans. The disaster recovery team launched a website this week. It should streamline the process. You can now request funding for the housing recovery program that offers loans up to $50,000. Other applications are available for the rebuild grant, mitigation funding, and the Boulder County tax rebate. According to the disaster recovery program, applications are at one of its highest levels since that program launched in June of 2022.
A major federal investment bringing hundreds of new jobs to Colorado Springs. The Department of Commerce awarding the company Microchip $162 million to expand here. Microchip says that investment will help to hire at least 400 people in semiconductor production. Semiconductors are integral to America's economic and national security. There are parts of things as simple as power tools and light switches, but they also go into things as complex as fighter jets. Domestic production also helps the United States be less dependent on global competitors.
You don't go through a day in your life without about 200 to 300 of our products in some way, shape, or form having touched you in ways you don't recognize, but they keep you safe, they keep you informed, they keep it convenient, they make life better for work people.
And nationwide, the company says they'll be able to triple production of semiconductors with this investment. And the average salary for the hundreds of open jobs is $75,000 a year. Still more than 300 days left until the presidential election, but the race for the White House is certainly shifting into a new gear.
Republican candidates are getting ready for the Iowa caucuses in less than 2 weeks as President Biden prepares to deliver his first major re-election speech. NBC's Bree Jackson is in Washington with the latest.
Republican candidates courting voters ahead of the critical Iowa caucuses, reacting to today's news of a school shooting in the state. Ron DeSantis offering condolences while also touching on his political views.
We obviously, have a responsibility to create safe environments. Federal government's probably not going to be leading that effort. I think it is more of a local and state issue.
Conservative voters say stopping the flow of illegal migrants is a key issue.
Americans want candidates to talk about how they're going to secure the border, to protect Americans, to regain our sovereignty as a nation.
Less than 2 weeks from the Iowa caucus, former President Trump maintains a commanding lead over his Republican rivals. A recent poll shows he's the first choice candidate for 51% of likely GOP caucus goers, despite his mounting legal troubles. Vivek Ramaswamy, a Trump defender, argues he should be the nominee, not Mr. Trump.
At the end of the day, if we need a commander-in-chief who's going to lead us to victory, I think that our base needs to choose the general who is not yet wounded in that war.
Trump is battling to stay on the ballot in Colorado, asking the Supreme Court to overturn a ruling that would ban him from appearing on the state's Republican primary ballot.
The central issue of my presidency.
Meanwhile, President Biden's campaign releasing this new ad today, stressing his re-election message.
There's something dangerous happening in America. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy.
I think Joe Biden has a way to talk about protecting democracy as a way to provide for an economy for all people.
Iowa will be the first time Republican voters will have their say. President Biden will deliver a speech on Friday recognizing 3 years since the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol and framing his 2024 re-election campaign as a fight for democracy. In Washington, Bree Jackson, NBC News.
A new Washington Post and University of Maryland poll gives us a look at what Americans think ahead of the third year since the attack on the Capitol. 56% of U.S. adults think that Trump is guilty of the criminal conspiracy charges related to efforts to overturn the 2020 election.